It's Sunday night, the 11th of February, and I've just finished my first Sunday Norm of 2024. Feeling very zen, actually. Sometimes it gives me loads of energy, sometimes it balances me, and I think it really balanced me tonight, so I feel just calm and content. And although it takes a lot of work, and the work is really getting into the zone and kind of picking a theme and noticing what's going on in the world, that those who join kind of get a sense that I'm providing them something that they need. So tonight's theme was fire and water and kind of the balance in between. I didn't touch on alchemy too much, but that intention is in there. So yeah, it was really calming. I'm tired now, so I will retire to bed very soon. I try and take kind of Monday mornings off after doing the Sunday nights, but I've been busy this last while, so I'll see how tomorrow goes. There's definitely a shift, as I spoke about, on the videos in the last few weeks, and that's why that fire and water energy is really coming to the fore. And my reflection for questions this evening was things like, where is there fire in your life? Do you need more or less of it? And water, do you have fire? Do you need more or less water? So that was, really interesting. Hopefully it threw up some kind of thoughts for the people that are joining the Sunday Norm. This is a week. It's a funny old week. It's Valentine's week. It's also Ash Wednesday, and they fall on the same day. So I can freely feel that kind of friction between love and starting, in our culture, even if you don't observe Lent, this time of like denial. So there's a real push-pull between the two worlds. So maybe asking yourself, where do you fall in between? What are you celebrating? I have a feeling there's a podcast coming this week. My podcast is 3 years old on Valentine's Day. That was when I sent and did my first ever recording, and I was just checking my stats today. I'm nearly at 5,500 downloads. Small podcast, but the episode I published this week would be the 33rd. So there's some nice synergies there. 3 years, 33 episodes, and 5,500 downloads. So yeah, that's lovely. I should really, I want to celebrate that and mark that, because if you had told me 3 years ago, we were still in the middle of the pandemic, that the podcast would go on and be shared and listened to, and have impacted way more than me, but the listeners and the people I interviewed as well. For them, a lot of them, it was their first time ever being interviewed. So it holds resonance for them that they got to share their voice and their story. And I rebranded it. Started off as like the Soul Journeys with Norma, and now it's Beyond the Norm, which has become my brand name, my business name, the Sunday Norm. It's just all kind of stemmed from that. That's actually a really, really, really interesting story, how I came up with that name. So for those who followed the journey for a while, I have done an awful lot of Wim Hof training, and probably less so in the last 12 months, but certainly my mum's anniversary is 5 years in March, and I started 5 years ago. And I have done so many different courses, in particular with Neil Burg, who the main Wim Hof trainer in Ireland, Marta Vera, who's also one of the other Wim Hof trainers, and then with Wim Hof's two daughters as well in Amsterdam. But side note, I was coming back from, I was at a Joe Dispenza thing. I met this amazing Israeli man who lives in Guernsey, and without naming his name, he had been nearly estranged from Israel for a long number of years because he doesn't believe and never believed in the regime and didn't ever want to serve in the army. So he left Israel at a young age. The most divine male, like just fabulous energy man you would ever meet. And I met him at a Joe Dispenza retreat. We talked a lot about Wim Hof. He came to Clare on one of my retreats, and I was giving him a lift from Clare back into Limerick. And I was telling him I was like, I really am searching for a new name for my podcast, because I don't believe soul journeys. I don't think it lands for a lot of people, because that's not their path. And I want to get the message out to as many people as possible. And he said, Norm, I always considered you something above the norm. And I paused and I went, no, that doesn't feel right. I'm not above anyone. But certainly some of my work is beyond the norm. So that same man really inspired me to change the names and all of that and the story behind that. But what's so tragic about that story now is his brother was killed by Hamas on the 7th of October in 2023. And his hurt is not towards Hamas, it's towards Israel and towards Netanyahu, who has just totally changed the world. And he has shared his story, and he spent most of his life in Gaza, and his family have, helping people. And his brother was a real man of Gaza, actually, and had done an awful lot of volunteering and work, but his life was tragically taken in the end. So he's now kind of part of my Beyond the Norm story, how I named my business, how I named the podcast. And it's only of recent days that I've reflected on that, the impact people can have. And when you say Israeli now, how it can mean something totally different. And a more divine male, beautiful man you would never meet. He's just such a fabulous person, and he's really suffering since the loss of his brother, and his whole kibbutz has been destroyed. His parents are still alive, who are elderly. And his world has changed, and all he wants for this whole thing to end, and for the innocents to be no longer massacred. And we'll finish there on that note, just sending healing. And it doesn't feel enough to that beautiful child that rang an ambulance to come and save her. That's what I think all of us have been holding heavy this weekend. May this just end. It's just too cruel. It's too cruel. So look, this week, it's a funny week, no matter what way you look at it. So just go gently and take it day by day. And I will be doing a podcast on lessons from gratitude and self-love and love that I'll be sharing later on in the week. But for now, sleep well, take care of you, mind you. Bye now.